Hello, my name's Dean Williamson. I'm the plant manager for this site, and I've spoken to some of you before about the hazards of handheld and pedestrian controlled plant. Today I want to look at some of the problems you may encounter with ride-on plant. That's because time and time again I come across reports of accidents or near misses involving ride-on plant in the building, construction and civil engineering industries. What we're talking about is you and your health and safety, keeping you free from accidents and ill health. Now, it's impossible for me in a short space of time to talk about every type of ride-on plant that you may encounter, but it is possible to consider the main issues concerning your health and safety and the safe operation of your plant that will affect both you and the health and safety of other people. There's a fair cross-section of plant to consider on this site, but because all sites are different, we'll maybe take a very quick look at one or two other sites along the way. It will be for you, after watching this video, to apply the principles I'm talking about to your own situation. So, let's look at it this way. Your personal safety, getting your plant ready, and safe operation. First things first, how fit are you to operate ride-on plant? And do you take the time and trouble to protect yourself? You are, after all, legally responsible to do so and to wear the protective clothing and equipment that is supplied. If you fail to wear it and are involved in an accident, then be prepared to take the consequences. So what about the old chestnut? The law insists that we protect our hearing, but earplugs and defenders make it difficult to hear anybody else. We do need to communicate after all. Well, that's one reason why signals, eye contact with other workers nearby, and using loud reversing alarms are all important. Better still, see if the noise levels can be reduced. It's not so easy to turn off the noise if you're operating one of these, so you'll have to wear hearing protection. How many of us, I wonder, really believe what we're always being told these days? That excessive exposure to noise, even ordinary driving noises, can cause lasting damage to our hearing. Very few people believe it, simply because they don't notice it happening until it's too late, and those important noises, like your kids' laughter, can't be heard properly. Another thing that people tend not to notice is a gradual deterioration in their eyesight. When did you last get your eyes tested? Even if your eyesight's A1, you may still need to wear glasses or goggles, the safety type. That's because dust or grit can cause temporary blindness or blurring. Keep them to hand if you think you might need them. And what about your general fitness? Are you well? Agile? Do you look after yourself as well as you, hopefully, look after your plant? You won't put petrol in a diesel tank or too much air in your tyres. Why? Because they wouldn't function properly. Alcohol and drugs have even worse effects on human beings. On site, no drugs and no alcohol. I know you know that. But what if you've had a skinful the night before? You won't be fit to drive the next morning. In fact, you might not be fit to drive for the whole of the next day. Even everyday medicines can cause drowsiness, so can fatigue or other symptoms you'd rather ignore. If you don't feel 100%, do yourself and others a favour. Get it checked out. Be fit to operate your plant and stay fit. Very good. All right. Your personal health and safety is just as critical when you're getting ready to start work. Most important, if you haven't got one of these or an equivalent authorization, then don't even think of it. You can't operate the plant. Thanks, John. And even if you are authorized, you'll need to keep on top of new developments and changes. You know that car manufacturers are renowned for placing controls all over the place. You know what it's like when you switch from one to another. Well, construction plant can be much more complex. It's your employer's responsibility to provide training and ensure you're competent. But you still need access to the operator's manual. It should always be on the vehicle. If it's not, tell your supervisor it's missing and ask for another one. It's vital you know all about your plant.
Before you even touch it, take a walk around. Check for visual leaks and damage, and check that no one has placed anything against or behind your vehicle. It's just as vital to carry out pre-operational checks for tyres, fuel, water, oil and so on. You'll have to be particularly careful where plant is also used by other operators. Check all your mechanical links or couplings very carefully, and make sure that rebar hasn't been used as a towing pin. Routine operations involving fuels, oils, lubricants and fluids can all pose hazards to your skin, your lungs, your life even. Some oils, for example, contain cancer-causing elements known as carcinogens.
And oil can also cause dermatitis. It's not just your hands that can suffer. Other parts of your body can suffer from having an oily rag stuffed into your pocket. Dermatitis of the groin can be very inconvenient indeed. Makes you wince when you think about it. So keep oils and fuel off your skin. If gloves are provided, use them. Hydraulic oils pose their own dangers, especially in the event of a pipe breakage. The high pressure impact can pierce your skin and cause either immediate or gradual but intense swelling. Painful. Another thing to consider is the fumes that substances can give off. Diesel again, for example. Make sure the engine is always switched off and never refuel your vehicle in a confined space. All hazardous substances should bear labels telling you what precautions are required, whether it's gloves, goggles, respirators and so on. Your employer should make sure you are fully informed. Make sure you act on the information.
Obviously, the best thing is to avoid injury to yourself or to anyone else. But this is the real world and mishaps do unfortunately happen. You really need to know what to do in the event of an accident. Remember, many substances can be harmful to the environment as well as to humans, particularly diesel, so clear up any spillages.
The other place to keep clean is your cab. A clean cab is a safe cab, so tools and grease guns must all be stored in the right places. Get rid of empty drink cans and bottles too. These have a nasty habit of getting under your feet. You'll also need to make any necessary adjustments to suit your posture and your field of vision. You may well be sat on the vehicle for a long time, so you might as well be comfortable.
Poor posture can lead to back trouble, and so too can excess vibration. Lack of maintenance, the wrong tyre pressures, or too much speed in relation to the terrain are other factors. If you experience too much vibration, your spine will certainly suffer in the long term. Any problems? Speak to your supervisor. Your back also needs protecting when you lift anything manually. It's unlikely you'll have to do so if you're a plant operator, but if you do, then do it properly. Like this. You probably won't be undertaking repairs, but if you do need to get underneath for greasing or to carry out other operator maintenance, then for goodness sake, make sure the body is correctly propped. Don't, whatever you do, use makeshift jacks. Preferably call the maintenance team and leave it to the experts.
It's easier to put the plant back together than it is to rebuild you.
The next thing is to know your site. Can you manoeuvre your plant within the allowed turning spaces, and will it cope with the gradients? Is the ground level enough for your operation? Your employer or supervisor will have done a risk assessment, will have provided you with the right plant for the job and a safe system of work. You will also have been given a permit to work if necessary, been informed of the site regulations and location of any underground services. When you're ready, go safely. Only use plant for its specific purpose, and again, only operate that for which you've been trained.
However urgent a task may seem, however simple a piece of plant may appear to be, or however ace a driver you think you are, never be tempted to operate anything for which you're not authorised. Okay, so your work's held up because the driver's disappeared for 5 minutes. Better to wait for 5 minutes than break the law or cause an accident. Leave it alone. Oh, and when you're operating a mobile work platform like this, remember, always use your harness.
In any situation where you are operating from a vehicle without a cab, you must wear a hard hat, even if the vehicle's got roll protection bars. And of course, if a seatbelt is provided, use it. If your site doesn't insist on the wearing of hard hats in closed cabs, then it will almost certainly insist that you wear one every time you get out. Same goes for high visibility clothing. Follow the safe systems of work and specified traffic flow, and watch out for obstructions, especially overhead. Avoid any shocking experiences. Driving with skips raised can be just as dangerous. They must be lowered before driving away. Site conditions vary, so too do speed limits. Always drive carefully and according to the weather and site conditions. That might mean driving slower than the limit in some circumstances. Special care is needed at points where public footpaths or rights of way pass through the site. Expect the unexpected.
Site employees should of course be in the habit of giving moving plant a wide berth. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. Again, expect the unexpected. Give plenty of warning and try to gain eye contact with the drivers.
Be aware of those places where someone can get crushed between you and a structure or piles of material, the crushing zone. The victim's not the only one to suffer in these accidents. The driver goes through hell too.
Stop, hang on. Pretty much everything we do on site has the potential to affect or injure either ourselves or somebody else if we don't watch out and work safely. How many times have you seen dump trucks loaded this high? Fair enough.
Okay, so it's nearly time to go home, and that little bit extra saves another trip. But is it really worth sending somebody else to the hospital? Your overspill can create somebody else's death trap.
And uneven loading can cause this. So load up safely. Just what are your load limits? Weight as well as volume. Don't forget, that too much weight will not only impede the performance of your vehicle, it'll also affect the braking.
Not only does it make good sense not to be on a dumper when it's being loaded, it's also the law. So stand well clear during loading and make sure the driver's finished before you get back on. Of course, it's not just dumpers that need to be used carefully. That's the right way to lift, and that's definitely the wrong way.
It comes down to using the right plant and equipment for the job. If your plant's incorrect for the load that needs lifting, stop work and speak to your supervisor. It's better to speak up now than whinge later when someone wants to know why you tackled it in the first place. Ideally, this load needs a crane, but there isn't one about, and neither will there be until tomorrow. Hang on, whoa! What are you going to do about this then? And what would you do? Are there safe ways of moving all this without a crane? Or does work have to stop until tomorrow? Let your supervisor decide. That's what they're paid for.
Cranes are designed for lifting, but the operation still needs to be done properly by trained, competent people using the right equipment. That means using the proper chains and slings to lift the load and attaching lines maybe to guide it in some circumstances. On site, we're all members of a team, and the key to good teamwork is communication. Talk to one another. Don't expect other people to read your mind. If you're asked to do something for which you haven't been trained, or if you come across a problem, don't be afraid to say so. Just remember though, that the way you say it can either win friends and influence people, as they say, or it can put people's backs up. Be clear, be firm, you have to be, but be wise too.
Speaking about communication, one grey area on site is still the matter of which signals should be used by operators and signallers. It'd be better if there was just one standard set, but there isn't. So if you have a manoeuvre to perform that involves using a signaller, make sure everyone knows which signals are being used.
Manoeuvres like reversing should be avoided where possible. Where they are unavoidable, use an authorised and competent banksman to guide you and keep the area free from pedestrians. A banksman is essential to cover the driver's blind spots. Drivers should always maintain eye-to-eye contact. If you can't see the banksman, stop work at once and don't restart until everyone's clear what's happening.
The approach to excavations needs special care. Plants involved in earthworks and muck shifting often operate close to the edge. So check the ground near the excavation to ensure it can take the weight of your machine. Because you're trained and you know your machine, you should be able to judge whether the ground conditions are suitable. Where you're tipping into an excavation or over the edge of an embankment, suitable measures must be taken to prevent the vehicle from running over the edge.
You may of course be working within a deep excavation, and that could mean working in a confined space. Your employer must ensure that the ventilation is sufficient and that there's no danger to your health and safety from the fumes. If you're in any doubt, stop work and get out. This operator isn't getting out because of the fumes. It's tea break time. But notice when getting out of the cab, he put his hard hat on, pulled on the isolator and was careful where he put his feet. Not all plants have isolators, and it's therefore important to remove the key from the ignition.
Remember, no matter how skilled and competent you are, no one's exempt from having or causing an accident. When it comes to the end of your shift, park your vehicle safely, put the bucket down and take the keys out. Don't leave loads suspended, and don't lean your booms against any structures. If you've got to take the time to put the anti-vandal guards on, so be it. Don't make it easy for some unauthorised joyrider to cause mayhem. Safe working is about cooperation, observation and communication, teamwork. When your project's finished, you'll want the only memories to be good ones. And speaking of memories, here's a reminder.
Be fit to operate the plant and stay fit. Use any personal protective clothing and equipment that is provided. Prepare your plant carefully and know your site. Only use plant for its correct purpose and only operate plant for which you are authorised. Follow the safe systems of working and be on the lookout for hazards.
Because few things in life are straightforward, there will always be queries and new or difficult situations to tackle safely. Your supervisor is there to help and advise you. Remember, it's your health and safety we've been talking about.